Hello everyone, and welcome to our Ford Motor Company's Boosting Sales and Service Through Emotional Appeal video presentation. I'll be your host for the next little while here. My name is Matt Magoon. Feel free to follow along with the PowerPoint provided in the Dropbox. First of all, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome and thank you to all of our current sales reps attending this video presentation. It will truly benefit you with your future endeavors here at Ford. Then secondly, I'd like to extend another warm welcome to all of our new recruits, our new hires here at Ford who are viewing this video presentation. We look forward to a rewarding and mutually beneficial relationship with you throughout the next years here at Ford. And speaking of relationships, that's precisely what I'm here to talk about. Specifically, building customer relationships. So, over the next several minutes here, or the next little while, we're going to be discussing several things. First of all, we're going to be discussing passion, having passion, what it means, how to do it, and how it's going to benefit you as a sales rep here at Ford. Then after discussing a bit on passion, we're going to talk about storytelling. I'm going to tell you a story, and we're going to talk about storytelling and mentally syncing and getting on the same wavelength through storytelling. Then after storytelling, we're going to discuss communication styles. Your communication style, your customer's communication style, and how to flex them so they line up. Then after communication, we're going to discuss a little bit on the tools of persuasion, which are a must-have, the ancient tools, of course, ethos, logos, and pathos. Then lastly, we're going to wrap things up with just some selling ideas and values, tips and tricks that we want you here at Ford to take advantage of and use every day out there behind our counters and on our sales lots. Okay, team. So, let's start off with passion, first of all. Now, according to a recent book that I've read called Talk Like TED, about the presenters at the TEDx conferences, the author goes on to explain how only passionate people are successful people, and only successful people are passionate people. They go hand in hand. You don't have one without the other. Think about it for a moment. Can you think of anyone who's done anything in history that was remembered and they didn't have any passion? Can you think of anyone who did anything that was remembered and they did it without passion? At least a little bit. Really, honestly, no. Anything substantial, they had to have a good amount of passion. The author also goes on to explain how enthusiasm is contagious. Now, passion will drive success, and passion will draw people, and they'll work together, and it will spread, and it will build more momentum and give you more success. The enthusiasm transmits from one person to the next, to the next, to the next. Passion is shared. Passion is communicated. Passion spreads. And the great thing about passion is if you show passion as a salesperson, passion is 50% of the persuasion process. If the customer is convinced that you're convinced, there's only a little bit of fill in the blanks that you have to do, as long as you're a credible person. And that's where, of course, ethos and some of the tools of persuasion come into play. But there's one thing that we do need to focus on here. Yes, we have passion. We all have passions for ourselves and for our own things. But we need to make sure that we have passion for the customer's concerns. You like SUVs and sports cars, but this lady's passionate about minivans. Let's get on their wavelength. Passion for their concerns. Your passions? Maybe, if you guys are on the same wavelength, that's very possible. But always make sure to show passion for their concern. And when you do this, you will help to cultivate the best partnership and the best relationship. So then that customer can be a lifelong customer. And they will reap the rewards from the company, and the company will reap the rewards of their business. Now, there's a little bit on passion. So let's discuss storytelling, first of all. Storytelling was also a big topic in the Talk Like TEDx books, about the TEDx book, about the presenters at the conference. So first of all, the types of stories that are going to be relevant to us as sales personnel here are going to be personal stories. They're going to be stories about others, and there's going to be stories related to Ford or the product. So let me start off by telling you a little bit of a story myself. I think I was about a 20-year-old young lad out looking for a new used car on a summer afternoon. I think I was on a lot of one of our competitors. I wasn't on a Ford lot. I was on a lot of one of our big competitors. And the salesman eventually comes out of the shop to greet me. However, it wasn't the most thrilling greeting or first impression that I received from this guy. First of all, he emerges in a nice suit. He's well dressed. He's tall. He's rather dashing for a salesman. You gotta portray that look thing. I understand that. But he had the nonverbal language. He was kind of looking me up and down like, is this really a 20-year-old kid who's about to waste my time? Well, he walks up a little bit smugly, and quite honestly, I had to offer my hand first for the handshake. He didn't extend the handshake first. That's a big no-no in my book. Then he pulls his hand back, too, from that handshake, very oddly, like he just wanted to get his hand out of there. Maybe he didn't like me very much. I don't know. Well, after that unimpressive handshake, he basically kind of stood there for a minute, and I had to engage him about the car that we were standing next to. Then this guy doesn't even really act interested in selling me this used car. He turns me around to the lot of new cars and starts talking about lease options. And then he starts talking about how, since I'm young, my credit score might make it difficult for me to get a loan on a used car because banks only want to do large loans that make more money, etc., etc. And he went into a big spiel about how I should just get a new car because it's going to make the loan process easier. Well, little did he know, and he didn't even get enough time to find out, that I was actually walking in there with a check. I was going to pay cash, or maybe half of it up front to just help build my credit then from there, because anyone would approve a loan for $3,500 with $3,500 down. It's a simple loan process. He was absolutely wrong to tell me that I wouldn't be approved. So, now, needless to say, yes, this guy did get sidelined by a kid who was half his age and who was about to buy the car that they were standing next to. Whatever you do, salespeople, please don't be that guy. Please do not be that guy. He didn't have passion. He was basically abrasive. He didn't have my ideas in mind at all. He wasn't on my wavelength. He didn't even engage me first in anything. All right. So, with the morals of that story aside, and yes, that was a personal story. With the morals of the story aside, let's talk about storytelling in general. Now, storytelling, what I just did with you, it was a great way to get our minds sinking, wasn't it? We were seeing the same thing. You were visualizing a tall man walking out onto the lot. We were visualizing the same thing, kind of in our own interpretations, but we were on the same wavelength while you were telling, or while I was telling and you were listening to that story. And that's just how key storytelling is. It might not have triggered a strong emotion, but now you kind of realize, you're laughing, you're like, oh, that guy's not smart at all. He had the sale right there. He didn't know that punk kid had the check in his pocket. See, storytelling is so great at syncing our minds. And we even create a little bit of a bond in a relationship ourselves. And that's what you'll do with your customers when you tell a story, is you'll create a bond and you'll create a relationship with them. Now, stories, just remember, stories are fun, but stories always need to be relevant. I mean, they can be humorous. Sometimes you can just tell that funny story, that quick story about pop culture or pop news or something, but always try to relate your story to the sale, to the company, to some relevant information. Of course, there's always a time when you're just having those fun stories, but let's try to stay on task here. Keep our stories informative. Then also lastly, I want to point out how indeed, yes, storytelling is our key player in emotional appeal. Storytelling creates that empathy. It puts them into your shoes for a little bit. And if you can spin your story right, you can get them buying the car that is right for them. Every single time almost. All right. So let's go on to our next section here. And that is, of course, communication styles. Now, every person has a communication style. And sometimes it's a mix of a couple. But usually, people stick to one category. And those categories are, of course, first of all, the emotive communicator. Now, the emotive communicator is energetic, outspoken, and outgoing. They may be wearing a Hawaiian shirt. They're going to come into the parking lot, maybe kind of peeling out a little bit in their car. They're going to be excited. They're going to be excitable. They're going to be dreamers. They're going to have fun. They're going to want an informal relationship. Then let's bump over to the reflective, the careful, the considerate, the patient communicator. They drive into the lot very cautiously, very carefully. They're sensibly dressed, nothing crazy, no luau shirts. The reflective person, they're deep thinkers. They're generally very intelligent. Be very well informed when you come across a reflective communicator. Then, one of my favorites, the directive, the confident, controlling, impatient. This is that woman or man that power strides onto the lot. They're wearing that power suit or that power dress suit. They know what they want, they know what they need, they know what they can afford, and they're waiting for you to do it. Directive. Directive person, if they come onto the lot, you usually have a sale right there because they're there because they know what they want. Now, lastly, the supportive. The supportive communicator, this is probably your best option for an informal, long-term relationship or partnership. The supportive communicators are agreeable, they're caring, they're forthright, they're good listeners, they're friendly. Supportive people, friend them on Facebook. Tell them a good long story, a touching story about family or pets or a holiday or a vacation or something that triggers that emotional appeal. Supportive people are high on the emotional appeal spectrum. Cater to that. Now, as you're flexing, as you're determining what their communication style and personality is, what yours is, as you're flexing, these are some key things here to take into account when you're flexing. Now, flex or adjust your nonverbal body language. Go in for the power shake for that directive person. The quick 1, 2, 3 shakes, it's firm, good eye contact. Now, the supportive woman who goes to your church, give her the double handshake. She might appreciate a nice, gentle, slow handshake, a warm, friendly smile. Nothing too aggressive. The reflective communicator, they're kind of moderate. And the emotive person, watch out for the emotive communicator because sometimes they go in for that double handshake and then the back pat and you're doing the triple handshake and the thing. Get ready. Get ready for those emotives and greet those emotives well with your nonverbal, your body language, and your first impression greeting. Also, adjust your tone and your volume. That has a lot to do with it. Adjust your words and your pace. Slow down for the reflective. Speed it up a bit for the directive. And then also, is a story appropriate? Sometimes directive people, they don't need the story. They don't want the story. Right down to brass tacks. And that's fine. A formal relationship with a directive person can be just as productive as an informal relationship with a supportive person. And do that. Do determine whether it is formal or informal relationship. Which type of relationship and partnership is going to be best for which customer? Which one is which? Facebook friend or occasional email? What's it going to be? Phone call Or is it going to be just maybe a distant one? Distant relationship. Some people don't want a real lot of real close informality, and cater to that. That's perfectly fine. We can still turn our relationship, our partnership, into just a professional one. That's completely fine. Okay, now let's just brush quickly here on our tools of persuasion. And of course, ethos, well, that's credibility. And since we're all professional salesmen, and we're knowledgeable and we're passionate, we have much of our credibility taken care of. And then as far as logos, or logic and reasoning, well, we want to focus on the customer's logic. And we provide the information to explain the options best for the customer. And we sell them the car that they want for their reasons. Then our main attraction here, of course, is pathos, the emotional appeal. We need to utilize this pathos. We need to connect and bond through communicating, through storytelling. Appeal to their passions, not just yours. And yes, tell stories. Tell the appropriate stories. Mentally sync your passion onto their wavelength so then they can feel your passion. And then when you do this, this adds value to the experience, to the service, and to the product. And when you add value, that beats out the competitors, and it will be more likely to cultivate that long-term partnership. Always cater to that appropriate emotional appeal for your customers. Now, lastly here, let's go over some ideas and values here that we just want you to uphold at Ford out on our lots. First of all, make that great first impression. Offer the handshake first. Give the appropriate handshake. Give the appropriate smile. Warm smile for grandma, a sterner one for the businessman. Adapt it as you see fit. Flex your communication. That goes along with great first impressions. They're supportive. Be supportive. They're directive. You be directive. Learn how to be dominant or undominant in the situation. Are you leading or are you listening? Directive, you're listening. Supportive, you're leading. They all kind of have their own little system that works best. Then, of course, never push product or service. Our passion is their passion. Don't turn them around like the guy in my story. Don't turn them around to the brand new lot. I know the 2017s are in and the 16s gotta go. But if they're interested in a used car, you keep them over at the used car lot. Don't give them the runaround story and try to shuffle them off to spending more money than they want. That's not how you create a long-term relationship. All right.